Julian Assange lands in Australia a free man. In the good old days, we used to send criminals to Australia. Now that's where they're all desperately trying to get to when we let them out. There's been a lot of talk about this on YouTube today, so I'm not going to go on too long, but I am going to give you a succinct version of events, because in some ways it's very similar to what happened to Tony Romo, which is that blokes who didn't really commit an actual crime or offence against anybody have been turned into public enemy number one by an evil globalist. I mean, because it's beyond nations at this point. It's an evil globalist cabal that will punish you if you dare complain about the awful shit that they get up to. So, sit back, we'll have a quick read, and then I'll tell you why we should all be very concerned when a bloke essentially spends 15 years on the run for the crime of publishing a foreign nation's documents. Julian Assange has landed back home in his native Australia after a plea deal allowed him to walk free from a London prison. There were emotional scenes at Canberra Airport as the WikiLeaks founder kissed his wife and hugged his father. His lawyers watching on, visibly moved. Julian needs time to recover, to get used to freedom, Stella Assange said at a news conference shortly after her husband arrived. For the past 14 years, Assange has been in a legal battle with US officials who accused him of leaking classified documents which they say put lives in danger. The 52-year-old did not attend the news conference in Canberra, instead letting his lawyer and wife speak for him. The couple married in London's Belmarsh prison in 2022 and have 2 children together that he's never actually seen. The case centred around a massive WikiLeaks disclosure in 2010 when the website released a video from a US military helicopter which showed civilians being killed in the Iraqi capital, Baghdad. It also published thousands of confidential documents suggesting that the US military had killed hundreds of civilians in unreported incidents during the war in Afghanistan. Yeah, and if you didn't already know that, you don't know anything. The short version, ladies and gentlemen, is very simple. When I joined the military, and when anybody undergoes any lengthy military training, whereby they think you might have access to restricted or above documents, you have to sign the Official Secrets Act. I was defence vetted when I was in from my work with 40 Commando. You go through an extremely strict vetting process called DV, and then you get your background checked and you sign the Official Secrets Act, which says I will not leak anything that I come across during my professional career. Being a reasonable chap, I'm all for that. I was happy to sign it, and for that reason, I do agree with the prosecution of people like Bradley Manning, because Bradley Manning was a US soldier who had signed the American version of the Official Secrets Act and was therefore legally bound to not leak the documents to Mr. Assange. However, Mr. Assange is an Aussie and he's a citizen journalist, and he didn't join the US military, and he didn't sign anything saying, I promise not to leak American documents. To just put it in very simplistic terms, if I leaked secret documents to Julian Assange when I was still in the military and I'd signed the Official Secrets Act, I should rightly be prosecuted. I now have massive issues with the British state, the civil service, the judiciary, and the military at this point. But I don't break my word. I signed it, I lived by it, I did my duty, and that's the way you do it. So there is a case to answer for the likes of Snowden and Manning, because when you've signed on the dotted line and you've given your solemn oath that you're not going to leak these documents, there is accountability there. I don't want to get into a lengthy debate about whether they should or whether it was morally right to have leaked it, because that is complicated. Certainly some of the dodgy stuff that the US government's been up to would lead a good case that morally you can make a good argument for why you should be leaking these documents. But ultimately, you have to come to a decision on these things, and I am of the belief that if you put sign on the dotted line and you give your word as your bond, you shouldn't be leaking secret documents. Maybe talk smack about it when you get out, but don't take the documents with you. You know, there's a sensible accord you can come to. If you sign on the dotted line and you then have moral problems with it, you don't just upend the chessboard and sell all the documents to Al-Qaeda. So I can understand the case against Snowden and Manning, but Assange had nothing to do with it. All he did was published it. He didn't commit a crime. If you pinch a six-pack from the offie, and then as you're running away through the local park, you toss a can to a tramp, that bloke isn't the one that's legally accountable. It's the bloke that did the robbing. That is as simplistic a way as I can put it. So Julian Assange got stitched up massively by this evil globalist cabal that we now know, thanks to leaks from citizen journalists, not the actual fake news mainstream media journalists who just do as they're told and help hide things for the deep state. I mean, look at Mariana Spring. She does what she's told. She's not a journalist. She's a paid propagandist. People like Julian Assange are actual journalists. Tony Romo actually does real journalism. People who are called journalists are just wearing the skin suit of journalists. They don't do any journalism. They just disseminate full-blown propaganda by the maniacs that run the world, and the likes of Hillary Clinton, who some of those leaked documents explained, actually said, I'm sick of this guy. Can't we just drone strike him? No, you can't. Hillary. No. You're not supposed to just murder people on a whim. You soulless harpy. So, this case is pretty cut and dried. We are the baddies, Hans. Yeah, we are the baddies. Our governments murder people with impunity, lie to their own citizenry, propagandise them, steal from them, turn a blind eye to noncery, import people that'll bugger the children and blow them up at pop concerts, you name it. The laundry list of crimes that can be directed at the government and our politicians in the likes of the United States and the United Kingdom is unending. It is longer than the elephant man's cock. But you know who shouldn't be on that list of people that need hauling across the coals? Julian Assange. But that's just what I think. If you think he's an arsehole, feel free to tell me in the comments. If you disagree about Ed Snowden and Mr. Manning, have at it as well. I'm assuming plenty will disagree, but I think that when a man signs on the dotted line, he makes a vow. And things have to go very, very, very drastically wrong for you to break your word and then start tossing secret documents to all and sundry. That's just my 2 cents. Let me know what you think. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Toodle pip. Cheers.